Let's stop pretending. Religion wasn't born from truth. It was born from fear. Fear of the night, fear of storms, fear of death, fear of not knowing. You call it revelation. I call it a survival strategy. A primitive software patch written by terrified minds trying to explain lightning, disease, earthquakes, dreams, guilt. You built gods because you couldn't build microscopes. You wrote scriptures because you had no instruments. You invented miracles because you didn't yet have mathematics. Every time knowledge expanded, your gods retreated. The sun stopped being a deity the moment we understood fusion. Diseases stopped being curses the moment we discovered germs. The universe stopped being a divine playground the moment Hubble showed us galaxies fleeing into darkness. And yet, you still cling to the same ancient stories as if time never moved forward. Tell me, why should I trust a worldview frozen in the vocabulary of nomads when I can trust a method that puts rovers on Mars, splits atoms, maps genomes, and measures the afterglow of creation itself? You call faith a virtue, but faith is what you use when you have no evidence. Faith is the last refuge of an idea that cannot stand on its own. If a claim cannot be tested, measured, replicated, or falsified, then it belongs to mythology, not reality. You say religion gives meaning, but meaning built on illusions is just a beautifully decorated lie. You want to talk about truth? Then step onto my side, where hypotheses bleed, theories fight, and only what survives deserves to be called real. Until then, religion remains the longest-running superstition in human history, a comforting story, a cosmic lullaby, a defense mechanism mistaken for metaphysics. So tell me, before we go any further, what exactly does your God explain that the laws of nature have not already devoured?
Fear? No. Religion was not born from fear. It was born from the moment humans realized that knowledge alone cannot carry the weight of existence. You boast about galaxies and genomes as if they solve the hunger that keeps people awake at night. Science can describe the stars, but it cannot tell you why you feel small beneath them. It can explain neurons, but not the feeling of a mother holding her child. It can measure chemicals, but not the meaning of a tear. It can predict death, but not teach you how to live. You think religion retreats before knowledge, but knowledge is not the battlefield. Meaning is. Show me the equation for beauty. Show me the experiment for morality. Show me the microscope that detects purpose. Show me the telescope that sees hope. You worship the measurable as if reality ends where your tools fail. But tools do not define truth. They only define your limitations. You say miracles are primitive explanations, but consciousness itself is a miracle you cannot explain. Free will is a miracle. The existence of objective morality is a miracle. The fact that mathematics maps the universe with perfect elegance is a miracle. Science did not create truth. It discovered patterns already written, and your faith in science is no less blind than the faith you mock. You trust that the universe is lawful. You trust that reason is reliable. You trust that your mind, shaped by blind chemistry, somehow grasps objective reality. Tell me, how is that not faith? You call religion a cosmic lullaby, but people do not die for lullabies. They die for truth. They die for meaning. They die because something in the human soul knows there is more to existence than particles colliding in the dark. So let me ask you, before you dismiss religion as superstition, tell me what your science offers when the microscope goes dark, the equations go silent, and a human being is finally forced to face the mystery of being alive.
You speak of meaning as if it were a shield, but meaning that depends on illusion is nothing more than a beautifully polished cage. You claim religion answers the questions I cannot: purpose, morality, love, suffering. But answering is not the same as answering correctly. A lie can comfort you. A story can inspire you. A fantasy can stabilize your mind. But none of that makes it true. Human beings are experts at mistaking emotional relief for revelation. You say religion fills a void. Of course it does. That's what every psychological coping mechanism does. Fear of death? Invent an afterlife. Fear of chaos? Invent providence. Fear of insignificance? Invent a cosmic plan. Fear of loneliness? Invent a God who watches you sleep. And then call it truth. You ask for the formula of beauty, but beauty is subjective. You ask for a test of morality, but morality evolves with cultures. You ask for purpose, but purpose is self-created, not discovered. You accuse science of arrogance, yet nothing is more arrogant than believing the universe is obsessed with you. Billions of galaxies, trillions of stars, unimaginable distances, and somehow you think the central drama of existence is happening inside your fragile mind? Religion doesn't expand reality, it shrinks it to the size of human longing. You admire mystery, but mystery is just a question waiting for better tools. You protect faith because you fear what happens when faith collapses, but collapse is the beginning of honesty. Meaning that cannot survive the truth does not deserve to survive. Let me ask you a question without poetry or comfort. If a belief makes you feel good, but is not real, are you willing to abandon it? Or is your meaning worth more to you than the truth itself?
You speak as if truth begins and ends with what can be measured, but measurement is not truth. It is merely the shadow truth casts when it enters your narrow tools. You call religion a cage, but science is the one locked inside a self-built prison of material assumptions. You say anything unverifiable is meaningless, yet that statement itself cannot be verified. You claim morality is cultural. Then why do cultures converge on justice, compassion, courage, sacrifice? Why do humans admire integrity even when it costs them everything? There is a moral grammar beneath our behavior, and your equations do not account for it. You reduce suffering to biology, purpose to neural patterns, love to chemistry, consciousness to electricity, as if naming a process explains its essence. You mistake description for understanding. Science dissects the brain, but cannot locate the self. Science analyzes decision-making, but cannot explain free will. Science charts the universe, but cannot say why it exists instead of nothing. And when confronted with these limits, you retreat into the same dogma you accuse religion of. Give us more time. We will explain it later. That is not empiricism. That is faith disguised as progress. You say the universe does not care about us. Maybe it doesn't, but the fact that you care is itself a phenomenon your worldview cannot justify. You accuse religion of shrinking reality, but science flattens it, turning the human soul into a byproduct of physics, turning awe into equations, turning existence into an accident. You mock transcendence because your instruments cannot detect it. A blind man touching a statue declares it flat. That does not make the world flat, only his perception. So let me challenge you. If science is your window to truth, who built the window? What holds up the frame? And what makes you believe your limited senses and your fragile brain are capable of grasping the universe without reference to anything beyond?
You speak of windows and frames, but history shows clearly. Every time humanity opened a window, religion tried to shut the curtains. You say science cannot explain everything. True, but science tries. Religion forbids the attempt. When people ask questions, science built telescopes. Religion burned people at the stake. Science dissected bodies. Religion banned anatomy. Science mapped the earth. Religion called exploration heresy. Look at the record. The moment humans tried to understand the stars, priests declared the heavens sacred. When Galileo said the earth moves, religion silenced him. When Darwin explained life's diversity, religion spiraled into panic. When medicine discovered germs, religion blamed demons. When psychologists studied the mind, religion insisted on spirits. Even today, every breakthrough, from stem cells to evolution to AI, is met with fear, denial, and sermons warning the faithful not to question too much. Tell me, what progress was born from dogma? What cure came from scripture? What technology came from prayer? What disease was defeated by faith alone? You talk about limits. Yes, religion imposes them. Science removes them. The golden age of medicine did not begin with miracles. It began when we stopped blaming sickness on sin and supernatural forces. The modern world did not arise because people prayed harder, but because they finally stopped believing that invisible beings controlled lightning, famine, and fate. Progress happened in spite of religion, not because of it. You say science cannot give meaning. Maybe so, but what good is meaning if it chains humanity to ignorance? If it demands obedience instead of inquiry? If it punishes those who dare to ask why? You claim religion gives humanity a soul, but history shows it often takes away its freedom. So before you accuse science of arrogance, answer this. How many discoveries did religion nurture, and how many did it fear, fight, bury, or ban? Which force truly lifted humanity, and which kept it crawling in the dark?
Yes, science lifted humanity. But tell me, at what cost? You brag about telescopes, vaccines, engines, equations. Impressive. But the same science that cured diseases also engineered nerve gas. The same physics that launched satellites also built atomic bombs. The same biology that mapped DNA also designed weapons to erase populations. Progress or accelerated destruction? Science gave us comfort, yes, but it also gave us loneliness. It gave us speed and anxiety. It gave us knowledge and the ability to end ourselves with a single mistake. Tell me, when did humans feel more human? Before the machine age or after it? You attack religion for slowing progress, but progress without wisdom is a runaway train without brakes, rails, or destination. What is the meaning of advancement if the human soul collapses along the way? You praise modern medicine, yet the modern world is drowning in depression, addiction, isolation, alienation, nihilism, despair. Your formulas cannot explain why suicide rates rise as technology improves. Your data cannot define why people feel empty in the most advanced societies. Science gave us tools, but tools do not tell us what to build, or why to build it, or who we become after we build it. You say religion fears questions. Fine, but science fears answers, especially the ones that require meaning, morality, and responsibility. You calculate everything except right and wrong. You map everything except purpose. You measure everything except the human heart. And when your inventions slip out of your control, from climate collapse to AI to biological manipulation, you offer equations, graphs, predictions, but never wisdom, because wisdom does not grow in laboratories. So tell me, if science is the great savior of humanity, why does every scientific breakthrough carry the shadow of our extinction? Who will guide your unstoppable progress, if not the very sense of the sacred you worked so hard to erase?
You keep speaking about wisdom, purpose, morality, but you never address the engine behind it all. Fear. Not philosophy, not revelation, not some divine whisper from beyond the stars. Just fear. Fear of death, fear of randomness, fear of insignificance, fear of a universe that does not care if you live or die. Religion did not emerge from insight. It emerged from panic. The human brain cannot tolerate the unknown, so it invents narratives that turn chaos into choreography and mortality into a temporary inconvenience. You say science cannot explain the soul. Tell me, what is the soul except the brain refusing to accept its own biological limits? You say meaning collapses without God, but maybe meaning collapses because humans cannot accept that meaning is not woven into the universe. It is stitched into neuron patterns firing desperately to keep you sane. Every culture invented afterlives long before microscopes existed. What a coincidence that the universe's true structure just happens to soothe your deepest terrors. Religion is not a window to truth. It is a sedative, a cosmic anesthetic administered to keep you from screaming in the face of oblivion. You speak of morality, but moral behavior appears in animals with no concept of God. You speak of transcendence, but psychedelics trigger the same neurotransmitters that mystics call spiritual awakening. You speak of divine presence, but electrical stimulation of the temporal lobe can reproduce it perfectly. Your sacred experiences can be created in a lab. Your revelations can be triggered by trauma, ritual, chemicals, isolation. Your miracles collapse under replication. Your comfort collapses under scrutiny. Religion is the oldest human technology, designed not to explain the world, but to protect you from the unbearable truth that the world does not revolve around you. So answer me honestly, if you stripped away your fear of death, your need for cosmic approval, and your terror of insignificance, would you still believe? Or would your God vanish the moment your fear did?
You talk as if fear is the mother of faith, but fear is the mother of science too, the fear of not knowing. The first astronomer feared the dark. The first physicist feared chaos. The first biologist feared death. Fear drove humans to microscopes long before it drove them to temples. So if fear disqualifies religion, it disqualifies science as well. But the real difference is this: science studies fear. Religion studies the one who feels it. You reduce transcendence to neurotransmitters and chemicals, fine. But those same chemicals produce mathematics, poetry, justice, sacrifice, all the things you worship when it suits you. You cut open the brain and declare the soul missing, as if the meaning of a book should appear in the ink instead of the story. You say spiritual experience can be induced, so can memory, so can love, so can grief. Inducibility does not make something false. It makes the brain a doorway, not the origin. You call religion a sedative, but sedatives numb. Religion awakens. Sedatives erase responsibility. Religion imposes it. Sedatives shrink the world. Religion expands it into realms your equations cannot enter. You ask whether faith would survive without fear of death. Let me ask you the inverse. Would your worldview survive if humans felt wonder instead of fear? If curiosity was more than chemistry? If consciousness was more than computation? Science explains the universe as if the observer does not matter, but the observer is the only thing that gives explanation meaning. You celebrate galaxies, atoms, neurons, and ignore the only phenomenon capable of recognizing them, the human self. You accuse religion of inventing purpose, but you have no explanation for why humans crave purpose with such ferocity that they will die for it. Why would a purposeless universe produce beings obsessed with meaning? Why would blind evolution produce souls that refuse blindness? Science can tell us how the heart beats, but not why it breaks. It can tell us how neurons fire, but not why we feel. It can tell us how life grows, but not why life matters. So before you dismiss religion as fear dressed in poetry, ask yourself, if science is enough, why does the human spirit keep demanding more?
Let's stop circling around metaphors and poetry. There is a simple truth you avoid. Religion interprets the world. Science transforms it. Interpretation is cheap. Anyone can invent meaning, attach purpose to stars, and weave cosmic stories from emotional hunger. But building reality? That's different. Religion said the earth was the center. Science redrew the heavens. Religion said diseases are punishments. Science cured them. Religion prayed for rain. Science built irrigation. Religion begged for miracles. Science built technology so powerful that miracles now look outdated. Your worldview produces explanations. Mine produces airplanes, electricity, anesthesia, lifespans twice as long as your prophets ever imagined. Tell me, which vision of reality is closer to the truth? The one that describes the world incorrectly, or the one that manipulates its laws with mathematical precision? You say science lacks meaning. Fine, but meaning without accuracy is decoration, and decoration is not truth. You accuse science of arrogance, but science is the only system designed to admit when it's wrong. When was the last time religion rewrote its doctrines because the evidence demanded it? Science evolves. Religion calcifies. Science thrives on error. Religion fears it. Science changes the world. Religion only changes its metaphors. And your claim that science cannot explain everything? That's not a weakness. That's a method. It is precisely because science recognizes its limits that it grows. Religion claims certainty, and that certainty is the most dangerous form of ignorance. Look at history. Every time religion declared a boundary, science crossed it. Every time religion insisted, "This is sacred," science discovered natural laws underneath. The universe is not shaped by scripture. It is shaped by mathematics, energy, entropy, evolution, forces that couldn't care less about your moral dramas. And yet you insist that an ancient narrative understands the cosmos better than the instruments that map it, probe it, harness it. So let me ask you, if religion truly understands reality, why does the universe obey physics and not prayer? Why does progress follow equations and not revelations? Why does truth emerge from experiments and not altars?
You ask why the universe obeys physics instead of prayer, but you never ask the deeper question: why does obedience to physics matter at all? You think because you can predict the world, you have understood it. You think because you can control matter, you have mastered existence. You think because your equations work, they reveal everything that matters. But formulas do not grieve. Data does not dream. Laws of nature do not look at a dying child and ask, why must it be this way? You measure reality, but ignore the one doing the measuring. You call religion rigid, yet you never question the rigid frame that makes you treat consciousness as a side effect and meaning as an illusion. You think religion misinterprets the world, perhaps, but science does something far stranger. It interprets humanity as irrelevant. You insist the universe is indifferent. Fine, but then tell me, why does the human heart refuse indifference? Why does a creature born of random chemistry long for justice, purpose, beauty, transcendence, things the universe never promised? You say progress proves science's truth, but progress only proves technique, not meaning. A society may have flying machines and dying spirits. It may cure disease and collapse from despair. It may extend life, yet fail to explain why life was worth extending. Science reveals how the world works. Religion reveals what the world is for, not with measurements, but with questions your instruments cannot even formulate. And so we arrive here, not as opponents, but as two halves of a broken mirror, each reflecting something the other cannot hold. You seek truth in equations. I seek truth in experience. You dismantle illusions. I preserve the things that make a human life more than a sequence of impulses. Perhaps we are both incomplete, so let me end with this. If science gave you every answer about how the universe functions, but none about why you exist, would you be satisfied? Or would the silence between the equations still terrify you? The debate does not end here. It never has, and maybe it never should.